Good morning, Franz. How are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. I am doing absolutely awesome. It's almost Christmas. It's November 1. It's almost Christmas.
It's almost Christmas. Is this where we're at now? November 1, All Saints Day.
No, I'm
Holy Day of Obligation.
I am amped. I give you 100% every time. But when we have some really good ones.
Sometimes you don't just give me 100%. You give me extra.
Extra. It's like my middle name. But when we have some really good stories, like good legal topics,
yeah.
I feel like it raises the bar of the conversation. And today we've got several. Like, for example, just throwing this out there. Okay, number one, don't kill people. But number two, if you kill somebody, don't confess to a pastor that happens to be a sheriff's officer.
Okay,
that's a huge
so many
mistake.
questions about that story.
That's a huge mistake.
I have so many questions about this story. We're going to get to that one in a minute. But
okay.
we got to start with the one that happened just up the road.
Yeah.
Okay. A police officer was arrested for negligent homicide and other offenses after running a red light while rushing to a gunfight involving officers near Mid-City earlier this month. BRPD said the situation unfolded October 20th near the corner of Government and Park Boulevard. This is not where the accident happened. The accident happened Government at Foster. Okay, gunfight breaks out Government near Park. Officer is mile and a half away, closer to where Albertsons, Canes, Jack in the Box, and Shell Station. Those are your four. South Foster, right? So, flies through that intersection at a pretty high rate of speed, gets into an accident while flying through that intersection. That accident kills somebody. And it's being investigated now, I believe, as to whether or not the lights and sirens were on.
Well, the victim was deaf, so I don't know.
Sirens would be moot.
Sirens would be moot. And that, unlike my normal irreverent and rude and horrible, I mean, all respect to the victim, this is a fact, not in dispute.
Right.
The Louisiana School for the Deaf has come out, or the association has come out and said that this individual was deaf. So
right.
Lights were the issue, right?
Yes.
Did the person have a time or an opportunity to avoid the accident? And the answer seems to be no.
So one of the questions that's going to arise, not from the legal battle of this officer, but one of the questions that's going to arise from the whole discussion is, when is it appropriate for cops to pick up speed and chase after bad guys?
Right, and this is not a new thing for us.
No.
I mean, we just saw this in Addis.
Right, we saw high-speed pursuit in Addis. We saw the use of a helicopter as well that resulted in fatalities. We on the west side as well, that started on the east side. But we've seen on numerous occasions where a high-speed pursuit can end in tragedy. If you're asking the question, and I think this is where you and I are going to agree, if you're asking the question, when is it appropriate for a police officer to speed somewhere? When is it appropriate for a police officer to just gun it somewhere? I think the answer is when there's an active gunfight less than 2 miles away.
I think yes. I think we agree that was there a legitimate criminal pursuit with a suspect who's presumed innocent, a suspect that wasn't stopping,
right?
That was fleeing. Yes. Does that flight create a harm and risk to society?
Well, no, the suspect wasn't even fleeing yet, Franz. The guns were still being fired.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gunfire. I'm sorry.
We'll take that a step further.
Yeah. Does that create a harm to public? Yes.
You mean multiple bullets flying all over the place, Government and Park?
Yeah. Mid-city folk don't like gunfire. That lowers property value. It makes it harder to gentrify. Look, point is,
why do you have to derail it like that?
Part of it is
we were going down a good path.
Part of it is this.
10 seconds.
Absolutely has the justification to pursue.
From there comes the investigation into what she did. We'll pick that up after news. It's 6:30.
Are you going to, I guess my question is this. Are you going to, and on a national scene, we have prosecuted officers for not doing their duty.
Yes.
So are you going to, let's say she doesn't pursue, she had an opportunity to stop the harm, the risk, somebody gets shot as a result of her not pursuing.
Right.
Are you going to prosecute her? Are you going to assure me and guarantee me that you're not going to prosecute her for not doing something negligent or reckless by speeding through an intersection because she's taking her time to do that, and she didn't go fast enough. That's the problem, right?
The thing here is I completely agree on this topic. But there's going to be, like, the intricacies of it that are going to be called into question.
I would try this
case. And the fact that the guy was deaf adds to it. Because if she had her sirens going, then now we start asking other questions that are going to be very rude to people.
I would try this case.
Oh.
This is a triable case. I don't like. So what I have a problem with this case is, you want to sue the BRPD and sue her, go for it. This is, and we've had this topic a few times, right? This to me is a civil case. Hiller Moore went on the record talking about this. He's right. It could be a criminal case, and if he thinks it is, he should pursue charges.
Even if it is, though.
Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know that this girl needs to be a convicted felon.
Coming up at 7:15, I'm going to talk with Sergeant McCoy.
Oh, I know.
About recruiting.
I know.
We're over 100 officers down here.
Why would you ever want to be an officer?
Thank you. That's where I have to throw whatever the intricacies of the law are. I have to throw them out the window to make sure we have a police force at all. Yeah, way to put the mouth on it, Barry. Never, ever, ever. That's like saying this guy never misses a free throw. Clang.
Four-day work week. So European. So European.
Very liberal.
Look, Alondra and I are lobbying for a siesta, midday siesta, like many European countries where, between the hours of 3 and 4, we're just going to be allowed to take an hour nap.
Oh, yeah.
Go home, maybe have a cappuccino.
I'm all for that.
Galen, come on. You're surprised that somebody can get 70 miles per hour on Government Street?
I am.
I don't know, man. That road diet ain't dieted much.
As mid-city folk, no, we don't like gunfire.
Or drag racing.
You're headed towards downtown.
You're headed towards downtown.
From that side of government, you're not in the road diet. It's still 2 lanes right there. Not to mention, we're not talking about the middle of traffic. Heading towards, you've got 2 lanes right there. It squeezes down to 1.
Like right
after
at
you cross
Albertsons.
Foster. Yeah.
So where were they? Like, where were they?
The intersection of Government and Foster headed towards downtown. Like, Mercy's at your back.
Yeah.
Downtown's in front of you. You've got 2 lanes right there.
You do, huh?
Wait, is the Chicken Wing and the Smoothie King
Are you
okay?
talking about?
That's all I care about. The Chicken Wing place and the Smoothie King that are right there, are they okay? That's all
Yeah.
I mean, I care about the person that died.
What chicken wing place?
There's a Chicken Wing place next to the Smoothie King. You need to check it out.
Next
If you like
to the Smoothie King?
if you like chicken wings, that's it. I mean, it's not Blue Store.
You know I love chicken wings.
Ooh, man.
I'll debone a chicken.
KOK. Fisher loved him some KOK.
So I don't want to go there because
Okay.
a friend told me that, like, when she went there, you were sitting shoulder to shoulder with people.
It gets packed, and
I don't
you
like
also,
that. I don't like
and the
that.
service is a little questionable.
Ooh, I really don't like that.
The wings were good though. Fisher doesn't
So
eat a
you
lot.
go?
Yes, you would. That's what I'm getting at. Fisher doesn't eat wings a lot,
Okay.
but he was all about those wings.
Okay.
KOK. I'm not allowed to call it the phonetic way.
We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Not my rule. It's the FCC.
I just saw the tweet.
So I used the phrase "damned if you do, damned if you don't" on
Wait,
WAFB yesterday, and I caught myself, and I was like, "Is that
No.
like damned if you do, damned if you don't?"
Perfectly fine.
Okay, because that is what I used in association with this topic. Is if the cop doesn't pursue, is she going to be, if she's in the position best suited to stop the shooting and to prevent other lives from being?
You're less than 2 miles away.
And are we going to charge? Are we going to charge the shooters with murder?
I want to walk down that path too. We're not going to get to the dog thing today.
I'm sorry.
I had somebody DM me asking if we were going to talk about the dog thing, and Ron Haley. Well, you want to talk about hyperbole? Ron hyperbole.
Love me some Ronald Haley.
Okay. What's ABC got going in the middle of the... Starting off with a chilly, darn right cold morning in Baton Rouge. Here's your full forecast from WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. .637 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Tuesday, BRPD announced the arrest of Officer Charmaine Buckley, 28 years old, on charges of negligent homicide, 2 counts of negligent injuring and reckless operation. Investigators into an accident that occurred on Government Street at South Foster back on October 20th. Investigators determined that Buckley ran a red light and crashed into Caleb Chiapetta's vehicle, killing 38-year-old Caleb Chiappetta, who was deaf, by the way, and that might be important to the story. Because the reason the accident happened was Officer Charmaine Buckley was responding to an active shooting incident, which was less than 2 miles away. What we're talking about right now is the legal ramifications of it, as Attorney Franz Borghardt is in for Legally Served. All right, Franz, let's talk about this. But before we get back into opinion, let's talk about this from an actual legal perspective. So what needs to be established here?
So negligent homicide is a 0 to 5 year nonviolent felony. It's a homicide that happens based on essentially a gross deviation from acceptable behavior, right? So it's gross negligence. No one is going to say that this officer wanted or had the intent to kill this victim. Okay? So they have to establish that it was a gross deviation of acceptable behavior.
Yes.
She will get to argue exigent circumstances. She will get to argue intervening causation. She will get to argue that but for the shooting, she wouldn't have run a red light to try to make the citizens in the surrounding area safer and to prevent more harm. She'll get to argue those things. Mm-hmm. It's the but-for argument. But
right.
For these things going on, it wouldn't have happened. Now, 70 miles per hour running a red light, gross negligence, probably. You know, from a legal standpoint, we don't prosecute every single car accident. Even right. Fatality ones, we don't prosecute every single one. Sometimes an accident is just an accident. You know, but this is the national trend now, is that we do.
Yeah.
And so it's not...
No, the national trend is if there's an opportunity to call out an officer for doing something wrong, you call out the officer, you vilify the officer, you make sure that officer...
Holding him accountable.
Right. Yeah. When Franz, but if you're not watching on Facebook but listening on air, those were some pretty huge air quotes right there for holding them accountable.
So holding accountable works great when the officer does something intentionally wrong.
Right.
Wanted to do it, thought about doing it, but
watched another officer do it while doing nothing.
And did nothing to stop it, right? This one feels a little different, right? And look, if I'm hyperbolic and I sound like I have strong feelings on this one, I think you're putting from a legal standpoint, she also gets to argue to a jury. This is a jury felony. She gets to argue, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't.
Yes, 100%.
If I don't pursue and this leads to someone getting killed and they see that I did not pursue and I did not run that red light, someone is going to blame me for being grossly negligent, for not doing my duty, for not doing what I took an oath to do.
Right.
That's problematic. Do we want to have officers in that position? And look, I'm not exactly the proest of cops individual in this room, but I will say, why would you ever want to be a law enforcement officer if we have this kind of society?
And that's where that has to be factored in the conversation somehow. I don't know how, from a legal perspective, you can fold that in. Because in court, I don't know how you could fold that in. But you talk about those extenuating or those extenuating circumstances. That's one of them. That's one of them. Is the risk of not responding could have led to greater harm. You could have had more dead people up by Government Park, including potentially dead officers up by Government Park, because bullets were flying everywhere.
So you have an arrestee, a defendant who has no criminal record, was 2 years on the job. I don't know that we haven't heard yet that she did anything heinous while in those 2 years, right?
Right.
So she has no prior criminal record, no felony record. Anybody that's talking about putting this woman in jail, it's a 0 to 5 year non-violent crime, so she could go to jail. But anybody that's talking about putting this woman in jail is ridiculous in my mind. Like you don't want her to be an officer anymore. That's fine. You want to sue her civilly? That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I don't know that. Is this the criminal justice system we want?
I told you during break, and I should probably say it on air just for the programming standpoint of teasing what's coming. At 7:15, Sergeant McCoy from BRPD is going to come in to talk about recruiting.
Oh, I noticed the schedule.
BRPD is short by over 100 officers right now. It's been an ongoing battle. There has been so much anti-police rhetoric out there over the last decade at least. They're fighting an uphill battle on every front. There are times, and you mentioned this during the break as well, there are times, like the Brave Cave, where you could point at intentional wrongdoing. And there are times where, like you said, an accident is just an accident. How, from a legal perspective, do you reconcile, well, yeah, we're sorry he's dead, but accidents happen?
Here's a great question. Under the umbrella of accountability, if she's not a cop and she just runs a red light and acts negligently, we're not having this conversation.
Man, okay, now I think we found a spot where we might disagree.
I don't know that. I know that there is a push for everybody. Nobody is above the law, right?
Right.
Everybody gets treated differently. Do you think that she gets arrested? Like, if she speeds through a red light, she's not in pursuit of anything, she just speeds through a red light, okay? Does she get arrested for negligent homicide?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
Why?
So.
Why?
Because you're flying through a red light at 70-plus miles per hour, and you kill somebody. That's... If it were just running a red light, probably no. But you're talking about doubling the speed limit running at a red light. You're talking about an 8-vehicle crash. You're talking about there's still sand 2 weeks later on the ground or kitty litter. I don't know what they put down to soak up all the everything that spills out of a vehicle. And you've got a dead guy, a 38-year-old dead guy who happens to have been deaf. Like, of all these things, I think we're still seeing a negligent homicide charge, but I'm saying because of where she was going, it makes a difference.
So I don't have the most criminal justice experience in this town. I have just shy of 18 years, almost 2 decades. And you would be surprised. In my experience, she does not get convicted of negligent homicide as a civilian. This would probably resolve itself. She would either go to diversion. She would not. Now, does she get arrested? Maybe.
Well, and that's the last question before we move on to our other topic is all this just a necessary going through the motions?
I don't know that she theoretically is. It's a nonviolent felony. She's a first offender. By the DA's office own standards of pretrial diversion, she should be, quote-unquote, eligible. I'm not comparing possessing cocaine to a homicide, but the person that can possesses cocaine that has no prior record is eligible for pretrial diversion.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good disposition on this one would be either pretrial diversion or have her do something. I don't think she needs to be a convicted felon. That's thought. That's me as a...
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a human being, like, salvageable. Like, we don't need to worry about this.
Even salvageable makes it sound like she did something that was intentionally wrong.
Right.
This
right.
was at the very, very,
Don't
at the
you
very
think she
worst.
feels horrible?
100%.
I'm convinced this woman probably feels terrible about killing this man.
100%. But did you see the statement from the Louisiana Association for the Deaf?
No, what did they say?
They said the LAD truly appreciates the swift action by the Baton Rouge Police Department to seek accountability for Caleb's untimely passing. It was an unnecessary death.
Do we even know what accountability means anymore?
I don't know.
I mean, is the only way you get be held accountable is by getting arrested and charged with a felony?
And thrown in jail.
And thrown in jail.
He's attorney Franz Borchardt. It's legally served. We do it this time every week. We need to take a quick break. We'll check traffic. We'll check your money now. When we come back, let's talk about a confession that turned into a confession. Oh, yeah. We're going to dig in next.
Celia Francis, I'm sorry. I'll stop yelling.
You're yelling?
Apparently I was yelling. Alondra, was I yelling? I may have been yelling. Sounds like something I would do. You didn't have to like her. You didn't have to smiley face or comment, Alondra. Gosh. Hurts, Alondra. Hurts. So I'm going to walk out of here today and someone's going to say, man, you're like pro-criminal. You're anti-cop. Wait, am I anti-cop? I'm defending the cop on this one. I got to tell you, this pastor one really bothers me.
Why?
I don't know. I just think you should be able to talk to your pastor about what's going on. Although I do think that if your pastor is also the investigating sheriff's officer. So long story
short, a woman stabbed her ex-fiancé. Yeah, I believe so. No, not.
Well, what did he do?
So and then confessed to her pastor, and her pastor was also an Ascension Parish deputy.
Oh shit!
So it was used against her in a conviction.
Right.
Oh, I don't know how.
So I don't know what faith or denomination she is. As a Catholic, it's hard for me to imagine going into a confession. And it's not an absolute privilege, right? If I tell the priest I'm about to commit a crime and he has reason to believe that I'm about to commit a crime, then he can theoretically do something. But
no,
it's all sacrosanct.
I'm pretty sure that would be a violation of the seal of the confessional.
And in fact, I think they get like excommunicated.
That's crazy. So she stabbed her fiance to death, and then she told.
Let me see if it was to death or if it was just.
She told the pastor, like, yo, I feel kind of bad about this.
Hey, give me a call back in about 10 minutes. I'm still on the radio, okay? God bless. I'm so in trouble.
Who's that?
Court TV. Hey, I'm on Brian Haldane's show. I'm on Brian Haldane's show.
I'm not really in trouble. Are you? Take that.
No, I got it. Without a computer, I'm going to go back to the office after this.
Okay.
I'm technically not on until like.
Right, I'm over here wondering if he deserved to get stabbed.
Like, what did he do?
Like, did he cheat on her?
Like, did he not do the dishes?
Right.
You're not allowed to kill people regardless.
I mean, maybe he didn't rinse the dishes off first before he put them in the dishwasher. I mean, that's a deal breaker. I agree with Galen. I think you're right. I think a cop pastor is a conflict.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's kind of weird that you could be like a pastor taking confession and also like a cop at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, and then it begs the question: shouldn't she have known better?
Sean Luke, does Miranda apply in this situation? I'm not sure.
No, it's
I don't know where Miranda's at.
It's a clergy privilege. Normally, what you tell a priest or a pastor is governed by what's called under the law. Look, I'm talking about law. By what's called a clergy privilege, and it can't be used against you, nor can the priest or pastor be compelled to testify against you. Or a spousal privilege, yeah. No, nothing like HIPAA, but great flex, great legal flex there, Alondra. Is Miranda cute? Miranda sounds like a cute chick. I'd like to hang out with Miranda. It's actually her last name. Sean, Miranda's not the issue. It's a privilege issue. No. Did you look at the Catholic priest? I think you get excommunicated.
.652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, 40 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Legally Served with attorney Franz Borghardt rolling right along. We're pivoting to another story here, and I apologize. We're not going to get to the police dog story because this last one, or the second one we're going to get into, is just way too. There's just way too much to get to dive in on. A Louisiana woman confessed a stabbing to a deputy who was her pastor. That confession helped convict her. Jury watched the video twice. Peggy Valentine saying on camera she had gone into the bedroom of the mother of a woman who had just had a baby with her ex-fiancé, got into a fight, and stabbed her with a box cutter. Okay, so she didn't stab the ex-fiancé. She stabbed the woman. Yeah. So it was a video that Peggy Valentine's lawyers tried to have stricken from the record. One of the two deputies who took the confession happened to also be Valentine's personal pastor, Major Daryl Smith. She had specifically asked to speak to him as investigators circled in on her as a suspect. So she's claiming privilege. They say she has no right to that. And there's a couple of different reasons why. Go ahead.
So, number one, she's being interrogated or interviewed.
Right.
So the expectation of privacy issue comes into play. Like, she's not in a confessional. She's not at the church or whatever. So there's an expectation of privacy. Number two is these are voluntary statements she's making to the quote-unquote deputy pastor. It's being recorded. But normally you have what's called a clergy privilege. So anything I tell a priest or a pastor to clear my conscience, the priest or pastor can't be compelled to testify against me, nor can they get on the stand and testify what I said to them.
Right. Now, so you and I are both Catholic. I know things from a Catholic perspective.
Right.
I don't know what flavor of Christianity this person was or is.
Okay.
So I don't know if rules are different in other.
The clergy rule under the law, it doesn't matter. What I tell my priest or pastor, what I tell that religious individual is supposed to be sacrosanct.
According to canonlawmadeeasy.com.
It's like the catechism, only not.
If there is a crime that has been committed, the priest cannot break the seal of the confessional.
Right.
Now, reading further down, it gets murky as to whether or not you tell the priest you're going to commit a crime.
So I believe that I have a duty. I have attorney-client privilege under the law unless Alondra tells me I'm about to cut somebody.
Yeah.
And if I have a reason to believe that she's really going to cut somebody and not joking, like I have an obligation to report her to law. And in fact, if I don't, I could lose my license. I could be prosecuted for negligent homicide.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there it has the two stories together.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's the thing, though, that I can't get past on this one, Franz. It was a video that Valentine's lawyers tried to have stricken from the record. One of the two deputies who took the confession. There were two deputies in the room.
So the argument becomes she waived the privilege by having the second deputy in the room
and being on video.
Yeah. Well, the video is not so much the issue. The other deputy being in the room, she can't claim no. I was talking to my pastor and you were eavesdropping. No, dude, that is not how it works. Now, if it's just that deputy and her in a room by themselves,
right,
and she's spilling her conscience, I think she would have had a better chance of suppressing the statement.
Well, yeah, especially if it's if just the deputy and no video. Like, let's say that was the scenario, and the deputy came forward and said, no. Let me spill all the tea she gave me a minute ago. Then it would be
right.
Yeah, she would have a case.
It's just
then.
It's a weird like.
So can we walk down that path for just a minute?
Sure.
Is you have a Major Daryl Smith, who is also a pastor of a church, and again, I don't know what flavor.
I got to tell you, if I'm one of his congregants, I ain't telling him poop.
No,
I'm never going to him again. No offense to never.
Yeah.
He's probably an amazing pastor, but dude, I can't.
I know. How does that not just completely leave you on?
And I think the reason you and I are so uncomfortable is our particular religious denomination. There is this expectation of complete anonymity, privacy, that what we tell the priest in that room doesn't leave that room, right?
Right.
But this is not a. But to be clear,
under the threat of excommunication,
yeah, like
not just you're going to get a slap on the wrist. You're going to no longer be a priest anymore.
Right.
We talked in our last segment about how police have trouble recruiting.
Yeah.
Try the priesthood have trouble recruiting, and they're still hard and fast on saying you're gone. You're gone if you break that seal. So
I think, and I'm shifting my thought on this. I think the expectation of privacy trumps and wins because of you're in an interrogational room, or you're in an interview room at the police station. You're not in a church. You're with another deputy in the room. It cannot be said that you have this belief that you're telling your spiritual guider. Now, should that deputy have maybe used a little bit better judgment in not putting himself in the position to get that confession? Well,
no. You think the privilege remains only not once that second deputy's in the room.
You waive the privilege.
The privilege is gone.
Correct.
You can't confess to a priest and a group of other people.
It's the same thing that if Alondra comes to my office to get a consultation and brings her best friend for support, like a support animal, and her best friend is in the room, and I tell Alondra, if you leave your best friend in the room, she can be compelled to testify against you because you're waiving your attorney-client privilege, and Alondra leaves her in the room. She is waiving it, and her expectation of privacy goes out the window.
He's attorney Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served at this time every week. Franz has got a scooch to go over to Court TV. I greatly appreciate the hustle, as